The Visa Starfrost lore, as well as the associated MANNADIUM archetype, is one of the most flexible decks in the entirety of Yu-Gi-Oh! With the number of different branches and ways it can interact with other forms of not only the lore with Visa Starfrost, but also basically any real deck in the game can try to use these cards to some extent. And I really think like one of the decks that do so better is DINOs, and this goes in one of two directions, right? I have two builds for this deck ready to go. We have this build, which is a DINO deck with a MANNADIUM engine built in to try and take better advantage of it. And then we have another deck, which is a MANNADIUM deck with some DINO cards bled in to help more efficiently use the MANNADIUM tuners and such. And the main difference between the two, of course, other than like the direction of their end boards and such, is this version of the deck seems a little bit more high rolly. It's not quite as consistent, but holy shit if it's not powerful. And there's a ton of super strong combos in the deck. It can actually play through quite a little bit of interruption with the right hand. But this deck in general is phenomenal, right? And it's less consistent than its MANNADIUM DINO counterpart, but it does put up, in my opinion, stronger boards, and more importantly, it actually has a much better matchup going second and can break boards much more effectively thanks to the usage of the Ultimate Conductor. So we're gonna cover off this deck today, and then we're gonna be covering off our other version, the MANNADIUM DINO version, over the next couple of days, more than likely, which is the sort of more MANNADIUM focused consistent version. So absolutely, if you enjoyed this sort of high roll, high ceiling DINO beatdown, then make sure you like the video here. But subscribe to stick around and catch our next one as it's coming out, as well as anything else, of course, that we upload in the meantime with daily content every single day. So if that's what you're interested in, absolutely subscribe. I've got a few replays lined up here to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the deck, because it's not perfect. There are quite a number of challenges when it comes to using, building, and piloting the deck, which I do want to talk about not only through the gameplay, but also at the end during a deck profile. So stick around to make sure you catch the deck profile. It's going to be a bit of a longer one because there are a few things I want to talk about. But yeah, either way, it's going to be a blast. Showing off some replays, then the deck profile. Let's get into it. Already getting into game one here. Going first, we're going to start off our turn with Fossil Dig. Fossil Dig going to grab us the Soul Eating Oviraptor directly from deck. We're normal summon it. We're going to grab the Baby Ceresaurus from our deck here as well. Using Miscellaneousaurus, we can protect our Dinos from effects for the rest of this main phase. We're going to banish a Miscellaneousaurus to summon the Archosaur. Archosaur popping the baby in hand to summon out another. So to grab a double evolution pill, then that's going to trigger our baby to summon another Dino from the deck. Summoning another baby, we're going to pop the baby to bring back the other baby from the graveyard. We're going to use that one to summon out our Scrap Raptor, getting hit with Nibiru, which is pretty embarrassing because it does nothing because we're playing Dinos, you dork. We're going to pop the baby to summon the Visa Starfrost. We're now going to summon back another baby from the deck. Synchro summoning now into the Baron de Fleur. He's already shown us Nib. I don't know if he's got anything else in that hand of his, but I want to make sure that I'm ready for it. Turns out he had a Drissworm, but I'm honestly not too worried about that. I let that resolve. We're going to use these two now. We're going to link summon into the Scrap Wyvern. Scrap Wyvern serves a very specific purpose in the deck, being a non-Dino for our Ultimate Conductor later on. We're going to use the Scrap Raptor, bringing it back, popping the Baby Ceresaurus off a Wyvern's effect to grab a Miscellaneousaurus. We're now going to pop the Scrap Wyvern so we can Synchro summon into the Borreload Savage Dragon. We're going to use now the Savage Dragon to grab the Scrap Wyvern from the graveyard, equipping it onto itself, of course. We're going to banish two Dinos from grave to summon our Ultimate Conductor, and with that, our opponent essentially down to a 3-card hand because we know one of the cards in their hand is Nib. That's the beautiful thing about Dinos. The vast majority, like the only time he would have been able to hit us with Nib in that turn is on the summon of Visa Starfrost. The only card he could have tributed with Nib on that whole turn was Visa Starfrost. Right. I just want to make that one clear. Into our opponent's turn here, our opponent turns out to be playing Branded. They're going to normal summon the Alibra, the Jester of Despia. They're going to grab the Branded Fusion directly from deck to hand. I don't know why my camera keeps freezing up on me. We're going to go Branded Fusion here to negate the... they're going to go Branded Fusion. We're going to go Baron to negate the Branded Fusion. Turning that shit off, standing at the graveyard. They're going to go Gold Sarcophagus. At this point, I'm fairly confident. They've got two cards in their hand that I don't know. I'm pretty sure they've got nothing, right? So I'm going to let that, I'm going to negate that. Sure enough, they end their turn. They don't do anything to stop us. They're going to go draw a phase, standby. In the standby, we're going to tag out Baron for the Soul Eating Oviraptor in the graveyard. Going to use its effect to get searching our deck for the Xeno Meteorus. We're going to use the Conductor. We're going to pop the Meek to flip the whole board face down. MANNADIUM Meek then using its effect to special summon itself out to the field. We're going to summon out the Meteorus. from our hand to the field as well. Meteorus and the Meek then summoning out themselves, boosting up to level 4 so we can go into using our other level 4, the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. Stardust Dragon then going to bring back the Meek from the graveyard. That's what he's going to go for Nib. Of course, we have Borreload, so we don't care. It's not as if we weren't ready for this. So we negate the Nibiru, of course. We're going to Synchro Summon once again using our level 8 and our level 2. I meant to go into Dispatcher here, but I actually go Qing Ying, which is still fine. We're going to banish Misk for 4. We're going to summon another Misk from deck that's going to trigger our Supreme Sovereign, getting rid of the Dressworm and the Brand of Fusion permanently. We're now going to go for another Synchro 10 into Baron de Fleur here. And now we've got Baron, Ultimate Conductor, we got Borreload, we got Qing Ying, and we're going to go into a second Ultimate Conductor here. This is about as strong as it gets, popping his face down off of Baron, and just like that, 42 to the face, 38 for lethal. And that is Dinos for you. Of course, our opponent was actually playing a really strong deck, and they had a very strong opening hand as well. They maybe fumbled that Nib a little bit at the beginning of the game, but like again, the only card they would have gotten rid of was the Visa Starfrost, which was like neat. It definitely wasn't essential. So I don't really know how. Again, Dinos can handle Nib very, very handily because of Misk. Misk is fucking broken. So because of Misk, we're actually able to put up a pretty decent board despite Nib, or even prepare for Nib very, very handily without it being able to negate all of our, or tribute all of our monsters. So yeah, fuck Nib, fuck Branded, game 2. This right here is a very interesting game because it showcases one of the things that I wanted to talk about towards the end, and that is the practice it takes to try to pilot this deck effectively. Even myself, I'm not yet a master of the deck. I just thought I'd make the deck profile because I'm having a shitload of fun, right? But there's definitely a lot of room for improvement when it comes to piloting it to make sure we can play around all of our various sort of restrictions and blocks without sort of cornering ourselves and stopping ourselves from making certain plays. If our opponent's playing Punk, I'm just going to sort of speed up through their turn here because we all know what Punk does. He doesn't exactly have the greatest Punk setup in the world, but we know that it has the trap card, which is decent. He's going to go into Psychic and Punisher here, which is, unironically, I didn't realize this at the time, but we, like, legitimately don't have an out to Psychic and Punisher. So we would have had to swing in, take some damage, and take it out that way, which isn't impossible, you know what I mean. Gonna go Mannadium here, Calarium, sorry, grabbing the Visa Starfrost, Fossil Dig gonna grab us the Overraptor from the deck. Overraptor, royal, beautiful card. We're gonna use its effect, of course we're gonna get negated. We saw that coming a mile off, I don't care. Our hand is so strong that I really legitimately do not care. We're gonna go for Ground Xeno here. Ground Zero, one of the primary points of like synergy here is Xeno and Meek, because Meek gets triggered if destroyed even in hand by the likes of Ground Xeno, and Meteorus will summon when the Meek is destroyed. So we grab Meteorus and we summon the Meek from the deck. We're gonna go Rheum Heart, we're gonna pop the Meek in the field, we're gonna summon itself out to the field. That's gonna trigger Meek and Grave, as well as Calarium on our field. Now here's where things get tricky, because Meteorus is a great card, and I really want to go into a Ground Xeno Fusion. So in the back of my head, I'm thinking to myself, Ground Xeno Fusion. I have to use Meteorus to get a normal monster, otherwise I won't be able to fuse. That was maybe a mistake because it does lead us astray. But this is where things start to get confusing, because we can't really use Meteorus because we have other shit we want to do that doesn't involve monsters summonable under its lock. So we decide, okay, we're gonna do some other stuff. We're gonna do some other stuff first. We're gonna go for the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon. We're gonna use its effect to bring back the Meek from the graveyard. We're gonna use these two now to go into Trisuka. Trisuka then going to use its effect to bring back Meek again. Then we're going to use Trisuka and the Meek to go into the Amritara. Amritara gets searching. We grab the Reframing here. We're going to use Visa Starfrost. We're going to pop the Meek to summon itself. And here's where things get really sort of messed up. I decided we're going to go into Cross Sheep here because we sort of need to put Visas in Grave. We're going to use now the Visas Engrave to go into the Astraloid. Of course, Astraloid is not an out to the Psychic and Punisher, but I just use it to chain block our Psychic and Punisher. Our Cross Sheep anyways. They're going to go Branded Regain to draw themselves an additional card because we banished the card from the graveyard, which is fine. And you'll notice here that there's not exactly a ton throughout this whole sort of situation and combo that we can do. We bring back the Meek. We're going to go into Sprite Elf here to try and get something onto our board. We're going to go Elf to bring back another Meek to the field. Now we're going to use these two in a level 10 Synchro Summon for the Baron de Fleur, but again, Baron de Fleur does not do much. We've got way too many tuners. Summon out the Smasher, going to go for a position to pop the Meek, just again to desperately try something. We're going to get rid of his regained, but ultimately it's an effort in futility, and we end up leaving. So that is an example of poor piloting, and poor piloting resulting in a scrambled board where you have too many tuners, you don't tame your Calarium right, you don't tame your Meteorus, you overly sort of fixate on something that isn't going to be playable, and ultimately, if you don't pilot it right, it can result in really sort of scrambled games like this, right? And it's possible to get it wrong, and during the learning process, you're going to get it wrong. Even I'm still getting it wrong, right? So that's why I wanted to show off at least one game where it was me sort of just fumbling through the combos, because you sort of do need to act with purpose, and you need to act knowing what's going to happen and plan your combo ahead of time. You can't just click shiny button with this deck. There's too many links involved, there's too many different parts where it can go wrong, so you really need to focus and think and plan when you're using this deck. So I just wanted to show off at least one game of me fucking it up. Let's get into game number 3. Alright, game 3 here. Bit of a weird one from our opponent. They were actually playing some form of Kashtira deck. They hit us with Shifter off the bat. Now, Shifter's a little bit rough, but we can actually set up an interruption or two underneath it here. So we're gonna go Calarium. We're gonna grab ourselves the Rheum Heart. We're gonna go Ground Xeno here. Ground Xeno grabbing the Meteorus. We're gonna pop the Fossil Dig. Meteorus being summonable from hand as a level 6 tuner is super helpful because we play a bunch of level 4 non-tuners in the deck. We're able to grab Misk here from our deck and then Synchro Summon into the Baron de Fleur, which gives us an Omni Negate. Our opponent's got a 4-card hand, so I'm hoping that, you know what, that should sort of be enough to tide us over, depending upon what it is they're playing. And it turns out they're not playing very much, which is totally fine. It gives me more opportunity to show off some of the plays and combos. Now we're not locked under that D-shifter. Now we do, however, have to contend with a range of hand traps. So we do get impermed on the Baron. Now that sort of tells me that he doesn't actually care about the Baron. What he's trying to do is he's going to try and he has something else, and it's Maxi. So now we're under Maxi. We've got two options. We can either play to try to win the game this turn, or B, we could sort of pussyfoot away from it. That's not our style. We're going to summon the Archosaur, use the Archosaur to pop the BB. We're going to grab the double evolution pill. We're going to use the BB to summon the Over Raptor from the deck. Again, our opponent's drawing cards. We don't care. We're going to grab Scrap Raptor because we already have everything fucking else, right? Rheum Heart coming out. Going to grab us the MANNADIUM Meek. We're going to summon the Meek. We're going to Synchro Summon using the 2 and the 4. We're going to summon out the Trisuka. Trisuka then on summon, going to bring back a MANNADIUM monster from the graveyard. We're going to get hit with another Imperm there. Remember, our Trisuka is not a dinosaur. It's not protected by the Miscellaneousaurus, so that is totally fine. However, it is still a level 6 tuner monster. So we're going to use that, and our Oviraptor, we're going to go into the Qing Ying. Qing Ying, a super powerful card. We're going to go double evolution pill, boosting up our Qing Ying even more by banishing 2 cards from the graveyard. We're going to go with the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno at 3,700 attack points. Attacking for 37, attacking for 37, and attacking for 3k. Just that simple. So again, showing off some more of the plays, playing through a number of hand traps and things like that. So obviously our opponent didn't do much in the way of interrupting us, at least not for their actual turn. But we were playing through quite a number of hand traps that are playing under Maxi as well, which is still cool. And showing off just some of the sort of synergy between the two decks. Again, I didn't get a ton of replays where people were putting up a massive fight, because as soon as we sort of use a MANNADIUM card, like if we activate Calarium and they didn't have an out to it, they just fucking surrendered, man. Because MANNADIUM by itself is so strong that we sort of playing off that fear factor a little bit. We got ourselves a few free wins, but there were just a lot of games where we weren't able to show off like the synergy between the two very well. Like there's a lot of games where we win just off the DINO stuff, or we win just off the MANNADIUM stuff, or our opponent surrenders, or it's just a completely unplayable game, or whatever, right? And I don't want to show any of that off. I want to make sure we're showing games that actually display the synergy between archetypes. But again, let's get into the actual deck list and we can talk about it in a little bit more detail. Alright, now first and foremost, let's get this cleared up before we go any further. Do I think that this deck is better than regular MANNADIUM? No. Do I think that this deck is better than regular Dinos? Also no. It's definitely a side street off of those decks, and arguably worse than either individually. However, again, that does not mean that it's unplayable. That does not mean that it shouldn't be played, because it offers unique traits over both. Again, you're talking about a MANNADIUM deck that can summon the Conductor Tyranno. You're talking about a DINO deck that can go through the Visas line to pop the babies through your Obsidian, through your Calarium, bring back Meteorus. So the Mannadium cards bring a lot more engine and aggression and sort of playability to the DINO cards. Whereas the DINO cards bring a lot more power and bring that sort of like OTK potential and bring that ultimate sort of like overwhelming force to the Mannadium cards, as well as some additional engine help in the form of Granzino and cards like that. So there's definitely a lot of intermingling, and I think there is potentially a way of playing this significantly better than the way in which I have handled it. And I will be continuing to play around with this idea. I think the other version of the deck, the Mannadium DINO version, that focuses primarily on the Mannadium cards with the Granzino and such as additional engines, is potentially a little bit better. My biggest gripe with this deck is that your Oviraptor and your actual like dedicated 2-card DINO combos are less consistent and thus feel less powerful. However, there's a whole bunch of new 2-card combos, right? And that's the trade-off, right? That is the trade-off, the fact that you've got the Mannadium Obsidian, like Mannadium Obsidian Baby Zerasaurus instant combo, right? Shit like that. There's a lot of new combos with the Mannadium cards, so it's difficult to complain too heavily because there's quite a lot going on. Let's go through the actual deck list though. Let's go through card for card. First of all, removing our hand traps, we of course have the standard Maxi package, triple Maxi, triple Ash. We got the double call by any single crossout. No other hand traps here, playing a very, very, very engine heavy deck, and that's kind of necessary when you're talking about a deck of this nature. Dinos is kind of always a very engine heavy. Mannadium, typically not much, and not as much so, but both combined, definitely talking very sort of heavy engine involvement. You have a little bit more room for maneuver when it comes to the Mannadium version of the deck, but in this version, you have to sort of go full tilt a little bit when it comes to the engine. I was kind of tempted to bring the deck to 60, I'm not going to lie. So let's go through it then. We have our normal monster of choice, the Megalo Smasher X. This could be the Frostosaurus instead if you want. I don't really care. We're going to go Archosaur as well. Archosaur on summon. Pop a dinosaur monster on your hand or field to search your deck for a double evolution pill. Useful alongside, of course, a Miscellaneousaurus. Baby Ceratosaurus and Petit Pteranodon will both summon a dinosaur monster from your deck if destroyed by card effect. Baby Ceratosaurus will be level 4 or lower. Petit Pteranodon level 4 or higher. We have Mannadium Meek. When destroyed by card effect, will summon another copy of Mannadium Meek from the deck. Again, this card being destroyable in hand through the likes of Granzino makes it a lot more useful because it means you can get into your Mannadium and Visas plays without even utilizing your normal summon much, much more consistently. So Meek's pretty fucking awesome. It can also special summon itself to the field if you control Visa Starfrost or a Heart monster, 1500 attack, 2100 defense. Although typically it's going to be popped in hand more often than not. Torrid, similar enough, it can special summon itself under the same circumstances or when its card is destroyed by card effect. You get to summon another Mannadium Tuner from your deck to the field as a hard once per turn. So in this case, you're going to be summoning, again, Meek, right? Miscellaneousaurus can send itself from the hand to the graveyard during the main phase to make your dinosaurs unaffected during this main phase from all of your opponent's card effects. So your dinos are pretty much immune to everything. This card is insane. It's one of the biggest cards in Dinos. Secondary to even that, it has the effect to banish itself plus any number of other Dinos to special summon from your deck a Dino whose level equals the total number of monsters banished. Most of the time, you're just banishing itself to summon your level 1 Archosaur, but the versatility with this card is virtually endless. Soul Eating Oviraptor, one of your best starter cards. On summon, you get to grab a dinosaur from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. You can also pop another dino on your field to summon back a dino from your graveyard. Scrap Raptor being a level 4 tuner monster, you can target a monster in the field and destroy it. And if this card is destroyed by card effect, you can normal summon a Scrap monster in addition to your normal summoner set this turn. We're typically not using this card's other effects too much in this build because we're not playing the Chimera. You can play the Chimera to take better advantage of the Scrap Raptor to its fullest. However, in many situations, I just didn't think running the additional brick was worth it, but you definitely could justify running Chimera, especially given that we were running close to 50 cards. So you could totally put it in if you really, really wanted to. We're already running the Wyvern and the rest of the engine, so you might as well. We've got the Rheum Heart here. During the main phase, you can quick play special summon this card by destroying a Mannadium monster on your field, and if summoned, will search your deck for a Mannadium spell, or sorry, any Mannadium card, so including your monsters, of course. So Radium Heart's a fantastic card, however, only playing one copy of it because we can get very, very easy access to the card through our Calarium, which we're also running 3 copies of Obsidian to search for, so you can think of this as basically a 7 copies of Radium Heart. I just didn't want to dedicate my normal summon to this card, and if you're playing it through Obsidian or Calarium, normally you're putting yourself in a position where you've got access to another MANNADIUM monster already, and thus can special summon it much, much easier. Visa Starfrost, we're running this guy at 3, and we're running this guy 3 for a reason, because he works excellently alongside not only your other MANNADIUM cards, but your baby dinos as well. And why does he do that? Well, this guy can, while in hand, target a monster on your field, destroy it, and then summon himself out to the field. And as a level 6 tuner, that puts him in an excellent position to go into an early Baron to protect yourself from the likes of Nibiru, while also triggering the destruction effects of your babies or your little orbs. So excellent card overall, plus very, very important to go into the likes of your Astrolite later in your combo. So yeah, Visa Starfrost, big, big part of the deck. And Meteorus also sort of fulfills a similar-esque role. This card will be searched for from your deck onto the likes of Ground Xeno, but even if it's in your hand already without having searched for something, if a card is destroyed by battle or card effect while this is in your hand, you get to special summon it. It can also, during your main phase, destroy any dinosaur monster in your hand or field to summon a dinosaur normal monster from your hand or deck, so that gets you access to your Megalo Smasher, which is useful for a variety of different reasons. But again, level 6 tuner monster is great. The only issue with this card is that after you use its effect to summon a normal monster, you're locked into summoning dragons, dinosaurs, sea serpents, or worm monsters only, which is a wide enough range in a lot of circumstances. But the MANNADIUM cards in particular aren't too big on those restrictions, which is why we've had to adjust our extra deck slightly to accommodate. So that's the situation there with Meteorus, that's totally fine. Then we got our big bad boss of dinos, the Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. This card is fucking incredible. Of course, you can special summon it straight from your hand by banishing any 2 dinos from the graveyard, so it's super easy to summon. During the main phase, quick effect during either player's turn, of course, you can destroy a monster in your hand or field to flip all of your opponent's monsters face down. It is a quick play, Book of Eclipse. You absolutely love to see it. It can also attack all monsters your opponent controls, and at 3,500 attack points, that's not a small amount of damage. And it even helps counter Makonko and other strategies, because if you were to attack at the fence position monster, you can send that card straight to the graveyard without battling it and inflicting 1,000 points of damage to your opponent. So you can overcome the likes of Makonko and such very, very easily using this card. Getting into your spells, you have your double evolution pill, searchable off your Archosaur, will banish a dinosaur and a non-dinosaur from your hand or graveyard to special summon your Ultimate Conductor Tyranno directly from the deck. That's why we're running 2 copies of it. Fossil Dig will grab any level 6 or lower dino from deck to hand, not once per turn, no cost, no nothing. This is one of the best search cards in the deck, in the game, sorry, right up there with Tuning. Fossil Dig and Tuning are both just incredible cards. We got Obsidian, which will destroy a monster you control to add Peaceful Planet Calarium from deck to hand, or if you already have this on the field, you can grab your Reframing instead. It can also banish itself from the graveyard to special summon either a Visa Starfrost or Radium Heart directly from your hand. Ground Xeno will pop a card in your hand to add a Dinosaur Tuner or a Dinosaur Normal monster directly from your deck to your hand. That's part of why we ended up including Scrap Raptor, so we had a good secondary target for our Meteorus, instead of our Meteorus. So this guy will grab a Dino Tuner or a Dino Normal monster, but then popping a card in hand, which is awesome because you can pop the babies, you can pop the Meek, you can pop the Torrid, all of those to gain those cards' effects, as well as if you search your deck for Meteorus, the popping of a card will trigger Meteorus to summon itself directly out to the field, which is absolutely incredible. And this card can also banish itself from the graveyard to conduct a fusion summon. So if you happen to have your Megalo Smasher, which you will get through the Meteorus' effect, you can then use Ground Xeno to fusion summon into whatever the hell this says, your big level 12 Dino dude. Which is very, very powerful. So yeah, Ground Xeno, pretty fucking awesome. Calarium. Calarium on activation will grab you a MANNADIUM monster or a Visa Starfrost. It boosts up all your light monsters by 100 attack for every tuner you control. And this is interesting here. So if a tuner in your field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target one of those cards and special summon it. Now, we're used to that just being Meek, right? But that applies to more than just Meek. It applies to any tuner And that is especially useful alongside the likes of Meteorus, which can pop itself to summon out the Megalo Smasher, and then will immediately bring itself back to the field off of Peaceful Planet Calarium. That is a hell of a piece of synergy right there, because that puts a level 6 and a level 4 on your board, which you can either use in a Synchro Summon for the likes of your Supreme Sovereign, or you can use in a Fusion Summon for your Zowler. So a lot of options here with Galarian, but in general, it's just a really powerful card with your Mannadium cards too, but it gives you a lot of freedom. And lastly, we have Reframing, which basically, as long as you control a Synchro monster, is an Omni-Negate. Getting into the extra deck, we have your Astrolite, which can be summoned directly from the extra deck by banishing Visa Starfrost and your Rheum Heart from the graveyard. Very straightforward. We're only running one copy of it because we're only running one copy of Rheum Heart, but this card is a level 8 extender, pops a card on summon, it's got 3k attack, everything about it is just excellent. It sort of plays into the high octane power of Dinos as well, if you can get access to it too, which is nice. We have the Zowler, which on summon will target a Dino from the graveyard and add it to hand, but if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, after doing that, you get to destroy 2 cards, one from your hand or field, and 1 card your opponent controls. So the most prevalent way of utilizing that effect is adding a baby, for example, from your graveyard back to your hand, then popping that same baby plus any card in your opponent's field. Now, how exactly are you going to be bringing this card back from the graveyard? Well, I'm glad you asked. This card, when destroyed, will shuffle a normal monster from your graveyard back into your deck, and then will special summon itself. So if you have this in the likes of your Ultimate Conductor in the field, you can use the Ultimate Conductor to pop your Zowler, to then trigger its effect in the graveyard to summon itself back and get poppin'. So Ultimate Conductor and Zowler is a hell of a combination, and it's really not that tough to set up either. So, love to see it. We've got our new copy of Trisuka, which on summon will bring back a level 2 tuner from the graveyard. Pretty damn awesome. We got Borreload Savage Dragon, which will equip onto itself on summon a Link monster from the graveyard, gain Boral counters equal to that monster's Link rating, and can once per turn use one of those counters to negate the activation of a card. The Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, similar to Trisuka, will bring back a level 2 tuner from the graveyard upon summon. We have the Amritara, which doesn't require a non-tuner, by the way, small note. But this guy's name becomes Visa Starfrost in the field, which doesn't matter so much for this particular build, but it is more important than the other one. But basically, you can, on summon, search your deck for a spell or trap that specifically mentions Visa Starfrost. So you can search for Calarium, you can search for Obsidian, you can search for Reframing, right? I'll grab any of them. So this card's pretty damn awesome. Burrow on the Fleur, once while face up, Omni-Negate, once per turn pop a card. We got Qing Ying, which will get boosting itself and get reducing your opponent by 100 attack and defense for every banished card, and if this card itself would be destroyed, you can banish instead a card from your graveyard, and if a card is ever banished while this card is on your field, you get to banish a card from your opponent's field and one from the graveyard without targeting. So this is a very freakishly powerful card. And there's a lot of ways of manually proccing it in your deck, especially if you're going second, you know, with your Tyranno, with your Misk, with your Double Evolution Pill. You don't have a lot of ways to trigger it in a quick play sense, as in during your opponent's turn, but you have more than enough ways of doing it during your turn. So if you want to use the Qing Ying to go second to help break boards, that is likely going to be one of the better uses of the card. Dolka, level 4 Exceed here. You can detach a material to negate the activation of a monster effect and destroy that monster, not once per turn either, so you can use this multiple times per turn. We got the Abyss Dweller, which will remove a material quick play to stop your opponent from activating effects in the graveyard for the duration of that turn. We have the Scrap Raptor, which will target a scrap engrave, special summon it back, then destroy a card you control, and if another scrap card, on your field is destroyed, you get to special summon a scrap monster from the deck and then pop any card on the field. Very powerful indeed. IP Masquerena helps you quick play Link Summon, in this case into your Nightmare Unicorn during the opponent's turn, which will spin a card back from your opponent's field into their deck. Cross Sheep, if this card is on your field and a monster is summoned to a zone it points to, it gains effects based upon the types of monsters it points to. If you points to a fusion monster, which it will because of Astrolite, you will summon a level 4 or lower monster from the graveyard, and if you control a single monster, all of your monsters permanently gain 700 attack points. Sprayed Elf protects anything it points to from targeting and can bring back a level 2 monster once per turn, which is especially useful in a deck that plays a whole ton of very powerful level 2 monsters. And that is the full deck list. Now, like I said, that is not necessarily the best way of playing DINO MANNADIUM. I think this is going to be a more high-rolly, high-power, high-octane version of the deck, which was an absolute blast and has tons of synergy and tons of combos like you saw today. But the MANNADIUM version is likely going to be a little bit better, purely because it's more consistent. It relies upon the more reliable MANNADIUM engine rather than the rather explosive and volatile DINO engine, right? So, again, make sure you're subscribed so you can catch that one once that video is done and up and running. I'm still testing that deck as we speak, but I will have that video done very, very soon. So if you want to catch that, make sure you're subscribed. If you got this far into the video and you actually enjoyed what you're watching, then make sure you like the video as well and potentially share it with someone you know who enjoys playing dinos. And with that, I'm going to sign off. You guys take care.